To hell with the date on your birth certificate. Let's talk about what we have in common across generations. Life, sex, and tech at any age. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy A. Shenker.
Hey, friends of Age Blind and nancyaf.com, my new website and my new brand. This is exciting. This is my last episode of February, which is the month of love, which is why I'm wearing my rose-colored glasses for those of you who are watching on YouTube. And all through the month, we focused on love, lust, passion, and relationships. Here is my gnome who's going back in the box until next February, although love should be year-round, which leads me to the topic of today's discussion. We have way too much hate in the world today. A whopping 55% of people have been subjected to some kind of hate speech, either online or in real life. That's really scary. And hate crimes are up about 80% since 2015. So that's all just really sad and kind of frightening. So Kyle, who is my producer for my podcast and my friend, he and I both love lists. So that's why we've decided to do today's podcast, which are 10 things that we love and 10 things that we don't love. And we deliberately called it things we don't love or we don't love so much because we really don't love the word hate and we think it should be used very, very sparingly. What's also interesting is that the whole point of this Age Blind podcast is that people of different generations can actually agree on more things than they disagree on. So when Kyle and I were putting our list together, we found that some of the things on our list matched up, which was really interesting. But we both are not lovers of conflict, so we just decided very peacefully whose list each of them would appear on. So welcome, Kyle. Thrilled to have you as my guest today.
All right, well, I'm glad that having me as a guest is a love and not love.
No, it's very much of a love. And not only do I love working with you as my podcast producer, but we become friends. And you're a regular guest on our Saltbox episodes, which are random gatherings of 6 people talking about a particular topic. So let's just jump right into our lists. As I said, we each have 10, and we're going to go back and forth. So something I've realized since launching my personal brand is that although I hate shooting selfie videos, I love online videos where somebody is really letting their true self shine and is not necessarily thinking that everybody's waiting around to see their next selfie video. So I love genuine videos. And the videos that I don't love so much, which you'll probably never see me doing unless it's in jest, are videos with very, very heavily filtered faces or Instagram reels or stories where women are wearing giant glasses and they're sitting really up close in your face. So that is my first love and my not love. So hit it, Kyle. What's your love number one?
Following up with that, that's kind of the tricky thing. So we've talked about me and the word engagement before, and to be clear, I think engagement is a good thing. Oftentimes when people say, "Oh, you don't like this because you're bad at it," they're lying. Engagement, no, I'm just bad at it. I'm bad in thinking that way. But kind of like what you were saying with the genuineness, with my personal show, I've learned how to build a community, and focusing more on that aspect, even though ultimately it's the same thing, is just really changed my mindset into a way that I love it.
Spot on, spot on. It's not about body count when you're doing user-generated content or building up a social media fan base. It's really about attracting the right people, which is a really, really good segue to my second love, which is true personalization. So if you want to sell me something or get me to do something on Facebook or LinkedIn, really try to get to know me first. This month was my birthday, and it pissed me off when I got emails saying, "Happy birthday, and we're giving you 10% off of this product." Like, it's my birthday, so give me a gift.
Yeah.
I also don't love those automated LinkedIn messages, which I know have gone to hundreds and hundreds of people. It's like getting messages on Tinder or Bumble where you just know the guy has mass blasted them out to every woman he's interested in.
I have this thing with my show. So I run a fiction podcast, and I get so many emails that are like, we have this business article we think your website viewers would be very interested in. And I'm like, no, I don't even post on my website. It's just podcast episodes.
Yep. So know who you're talking to. So what's your second love and not so much?
So, and then we'll hit on this very later in the list, but I really love video games. I play them for a long time. I think they're a very engaging art form. The culture is awful. It's terrible. I don't know what it is about the video game fans in general, and I'm doing massive, overarching things, which isn't always true, but there's just a lot of toxicity. There's every ism under the sun. Ableism, sexism, racism, what have you. There is a very angry gamer about it. And it might just be that I'm more in that culture, so I see that more in a way that I would see if I was part of other cultures, but it's just it just really sucks because I think games are a very innovative art form, and I think they can be often hampered by the people who love them the most.
Exactly. I think a lot of hardcore gamers have spent so much time online that they have never developed their EQ. And so it's very easy to hide behind a handle. And I've seen that myself since I launched my new brand. I've been trolled. And it's very easy for people to say things behind your back that they wouldn't say to your face.
Yeah, I the way I cope with them, because sometimes it can get under my skin, it's just like, wow, you thought you were real cool doing that. You thought you were just the coolest guy posting this just really annoying thing, didn't you?
Well, that's why I love the Super Bowl ad where Snoop and some football player said really hateful things to each other. And when you hear them out loud, you realize you would never say that to somebody's face, but it's very easy to say it on their YouTube channel or their Instagram post, which is actually a good segue to my next love, which is I really do love things that people post that are clever, that are innovative, where they really have taken some time to think about what they're posting and they make me laugh or they make me want to share it. But people who pontificate, or as I say, bloviate, not so much. You're not an inspirational figure. You're not a government leader. Well, that could go either way, but you're not necessarily somebody that I know and respect. So why are you just bloviating? I love the expression bloviating, by the way.
It's a good expression.
All right. What's your next love?
Yeah, I'm going to jump down further onto a list, and I'm going to start with my don't love as a segue to the love, because you mentioning the bloviating hit upon me some of the phrases that just get under my skin. Sorry, not sorry. If you haven't seen me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. And I'm so quirky. I get that, especially online, you have to really project your brand if you want, any kind of attention, even if you're not thinking of it as a brand. But I just don't like those phrases because they don't really have any self-reflection to them. And to me, they express this idea of, I'm the super special main character. And it's like, there are billions of us. In certain aspects, we all are the main characters, but in many other aspects, we're not. And I think that's fine, but it needs to be, I just think it should be respected more. So I like it when people are like, kind of like you're saying with clever memes, they're just being fun without going out of their way to be like, I'm so fun. I'm so weird.
Yeah, and actually that's a great segue. Another word that I love is the expressions, I'm not even kidding. Well, why would you be kidding? Like, just speak the truth. Or when people make a mistake and they say, my bad. Well, yes, it was your bad. So why don't you just say, I'm sorry? I would love to live in a world where I could assume that people are just telling the truth.
My dad likes to make a joke, laugh, and then when normally people would say, I'm just kidding, he says, I'm just serious. And I don't know, there's something that's just very funny to me with that. The sincerity of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to do that sometimes living in Arizona and having a very snarky New York sense of humor. I'll sometimes say something and I'll see a look of horror on somebody's face. And then I'll go, oh, no, I was just being snarky. I was just making a joke.
Yeah.
So, what's your next one?
Uh, I'm gonna go a bit lighter with my next one. I love Christmas. Christmas is great. It's just a good time. Thanksgiving is worse Christmas. Turkey is worse chicken. I mean, you don't have chicken on Christmas. Most people don't. But like, and I'm biased because I had a basically smaller Christmas with my dad's side of the family during Thanksgiving, but there's a lot of overlap. You've got food, you've got family, you've got celebration, but you don't have all the theming. You don't have gifts. I love the gifts. And yeah, again, Thanksgiving, people say it's all about eating. I don't like turkey. And so everyone's like, oh, I'm stuffed. I'm like, I barely eat at Thanksgiving.
I know we did an episode where you admitted that Thanksgiving is not your jam.
No.
And that's another great way of saying, I don't really care for this, or this is not something that I participate in. I don't love it. It's not my jam, which is a better way, better than saying the H word.
Yeah. I am not thankful for Thanksgiving. That's not true. I am thankful for it. I just couldn't resist saying that.
It was very timely because I just watched the SNL 50th year special and they brought back Debbie Downer, who I really try not to be like Debbie Downer. I had a mother who, no matter what you said, she would always look for the neurotic, scary side of it. We got a Christmas tree. Oh, make sure that the lights don't burn down your house. Or I got my flu vaccine. Oh, please make sure you still wear a mask to be extra safe. I perceived that as negativity. She perceived it as caring. So there's a very fine line. But I don't love Eeyores, people who are always looking for the dark side of something, the mean side of something, the doom scrollers. But it's my hippie roots coming through. I like Poohs, Winnie the Pooh, like just fun, collaborative, community oriented, and not an Eeyore.
I really like that as a way of describing it, because if you're familiar with both of them, it's just very impactful. Speaking of Pooh, something Pooh would not engage in is hustle culture. Winnie the Pooh is just, he's very, down to earth. He's very in the moment, just very mindful. And it just can get very frustrating how, especially it feels like art, anytime there's something new, people are like, we have to monetize it. We have to turn this form of expression into a way of making money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with selling art. And I mean, like, I play video games. That is literally art as a commodity. But I really put a lot of value in just doing things for the sake of doing things. I've been making art on my own for 2 years now. And sure, I post it on Instagram, but that's just so I can share it. I mostly make it just for the fun of it. And I think there is inherent value in doing something just to do it.
Yeah, and look at our business relationship, Kyle. You never hustled me for work. I just knew that you were out there and I knew you did good quality work and I approached you. And I was actually having the same conversation with our video guy, Corbin, because we were going through some edits to one of my scripts and he had added some salesy language at the end. And I'm like, no. That's just not my brand. That's not my style. I just put it out there. And if somebody wants to hire me, they'll hire me. But I never want to be that person that when I'm out to dinner and somebody sees me, they run away screaming because they think I'm going to be selling them something. Which is also, you're like the king of the Segway. I love this. Not the scooter, although.
I was excited to figure out how this would turn into a segue to your next point.
If you want to reject somebody, whether it's in a business setting or in a personal setting, like online dating, just be really, really honest. A lot of what we've talked about is being genuine. There's nothing wrong with sending somebody a text and saying, you seem great, but I just don't think we're a match. I did that with somebody recently, and he responded with what I call an angry bird response. But, when you get fired, just take it at face value. You could always ask, what could I have done better? Because that's a learning experience. So what I call ballsy and respectful rejections are always way better than just ghosting somebody, going missing, or getting defensive when someone says, I just don't want you in my professional or personal circle for some reason.
I want to back up for a segment. What is an angry bird response?
He said, you didn't read my profile carefully enough, and you should focus more on what we have in common than what we don't. And obviously, if we were working together, of course I would do that. I would look for the common area. I'd look for the center of the Venn diagram. But this was just a random dude on a dating app who put in his profile that he loved camping and ATVing and all outdoorsy stuff. And I am a city slicker.
It's not what you want to do.
It's not what I want to do. And if he had both sides to his personality, then his profile should have been more balanced. So I will probably do an article about that at some point, about writing profiles and how to make them genuine and comprehensive so that it doesn't wind up in an angry bird convo. And, I didn't actually engage in the conversation. I just unmatched and blocked him because I could tell that there was some toxic energy there.
Yeah, you said your piece. It's not ghosting if you said your piece and then there's nothing more to say.
Exactly. If it was a friend who said, why don't you call me anymore? That would be a whole different story because it's somebody who's already in my life. But this is somebody that I don't know at all.
Yeah.
And maybe he's right. And maybe he has a whole other side to him and he loves highbrow culture. I mean, I'm not that much of a snob. I watch reality TV, but it was really clear to me from his profile that he was not a traveler. He was not an explorer. He was not curious, which if you buy my book, hint, hint, you'll understand some of what I'm talking about. So Kyle, next one.
Yeah, I don't have a good segue for this one. I'm just going to say bird made me think of sounds. So mouth sounds really get under my skin. Just like or like someone chewing an apple. If someone is eating and I'm not eating, it kills me. So you might be like, oh, well, Kyle has this weird like food thing going on. No, I love awful food. I love those awful I don't love it when they're like, oh, we're going to waste a bunch of food to, we're just pouring a bunch of syrup on. But when it's like we took this pizza and we deep fried it and more deep fry and we covered it with cheese and this is not going to be tasty at all, but it looks disgusting. I love that. I don't know why, but I actively seek that out.
Well, as long as we're talking about sounds, I have this other prop. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll see it. And I love it, but Kyle does not. And I have no idea what it's actually going to say. It's a little plastic heart that says affirmations. I'm not sure why people actually need a plastic device to say affirmations, but it also can record your voice. So I couldn't figure out how to get it to play what I was going to have it say, which is Kyle doesn't love me and I don't know why. But I will play it for all of you just so you could hear what it says.
I am creative.
Ooh, that's a good one. Could you hear that?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It just, the way it sounds like it's hitting on me, and that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that the little plastic heart is trying to seduce me.
I learned from my mistakes.
That's very appropriate. It just said I learned from my mistakes. So I'm learning from my mistake. I'm putting it down. And also in the category of sound, which is funny because we're here recording a podcast and it's all about voice-to-voice communication. I don't love people who refuse to talk on the phone. One of the reasons why you and I work so well together is if I have something quick to tell you and I happen to be driving and don't want to wind up in a fiery crash, I just call you and I leave you a voicemail, or sometimes you actually pick up and I get to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be said for voice-to-voice communication because you get somebody's inflection. You know when they're teasing, hopefully. You know when they're frustrated. So we need to really bring back real human voice and not little plastic hard voice.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like about podcasts and why I like having people in my ear while I'm cooking. For some reason, I just need to have either a podcast or there are some YouTube videos that the video isn't as important, so I can basically listen to it like it's a podcast. And I just love having these people in my ear, which is very funny because if I'm in the kitchen, get out. You don't want to be in the kitchen when I am. It's going to end ugly for you.
I totally get it. And podcast listenership is actually on the upswing. I found that I never really listened to podcasts until I started doing my own. And now I listen to them all the time. I'm doing something in the kitchen. I'm taking a bath. I'm trying to get to sleep. But, learning from people who are very different from you and hearing what they have to say about things could be both educational and entertaining.
Yeah.
So that's why we love podcasts. Speaking of speech and all things voice to voice, March is the month of the Oscars. And I am a movie fanatic, as you will learn in March. We're doing an episode just on the movies. But when I go to the movies, which I still do, I love movie theater popcorn. I love sitting in the dark and looking at the big screen. But what makes me cuckoo is when people talk through the coming attractions in the movies, because that's how I'm planning what my next movie adventure is going to be. So you could talk through the ads, which I don't really like ads in the movies, but I've learned to deal with them. But as soon as the ads are over, you should shush.
Yeah, I feel like the ads are better when it's not amazing, but when they're just like the ones playing, like looping before the coming attractions, and it's just like, all right, well, there's something on the screen, whatever. But yeah, when an ad is interspersed inside of the coming attractions, then it's weird. It's like, come see this new epic movie and buy Pepsi. And it's like, all right, that's weird, but okay. So I really like adult versions of childhood joys. So as a kid, I used to play Lego a lot. I just had a lot of fun with it. And only a couple years ago, I was like, there's a bunch of 18 plus kits that are, they're in depth, they're complicated, and they're meant to be display pieces. And so it was a fun way of taking something that I loved as a kid and enjoying it as an adult in a new way. And I just think age gating activities, I'm an adult man with a spouse and a house who plays with Lego and plays video games. And I think that's fine. I think that's fun. I do think there is a danger sometimes where people will only engage in the childhood version of that. People who will say animation is for everyone, but then only watch kids' animation. And I do think there is a danger in that. But I also just don't like the idea of age gating things because, when I was a kid, I remember those Disney movies I watched. My dad would only let me watch the ones that he could also enjoy. So clearly they can be enjoyed by adults because my dad just flat out, what am I thinking? Bambi and Pocahontas. He thought those were boring. So I never watched them because he didn't want to watch them on loop.
Right. Again, it's, not his jam. But when I get together with my daughters and my grandkids, we play board games. And it's so awesome to be playing some of the games of my youth, like Clue or, Monopoly, the kids' version. Bananagrams is something that we all love.
Bananagrams is so good.
Which is a great, we are like the king and queen of the segue. So my next love is Spell Check, Grammarly, and Hemingway, which are all like really great examples of how AI can benefit humanity. I'm a writer. I make mistakes. But Spell Check and Grammarly are like having Mr. Edson, my favorite high school English teacher, sitting by my side and correcting me. And Hemingway is a great tool for when you tend to be a loquacious writer or a wordy writer. I do like ChatGPT as a way of starting things or doing research if I'm flummoxed. So there is technology out there that can make your life easier, your job better, your writing more accurate, your writing more creative. But what I don't love, and this is again going back to dating profiles, there are so many people out there who don't know how to correctly spell the difference between your and your, as in you are. And that to me is like pretty basic. And it's a
Yeah.
running joke on the apps because it is fairly common. So if you're a bad speller or you have questions about your grammar, just take it, put it into Word first, do the spell check, run it through Grammarly, and then paste it back into your profile. And nobody will ever be the wiser that you can't spell.
Yeah. And I really love those tools. I think it can be dangerous with all the information we have now when people try to use things as like cheat sheets, or not cheat sheets, but more like as a way to be incurious, as a way to just reinforce what they already believe, as a way to not really explore and grow, which is a shame because one thing I love is all the tools out there for making things useful. Because I actually have to change one of my items because I originally put down I didn't love building my own computer because I did it years ago and it didn't work. But I actually do like it now because there is this really helpful tutorial that's like an hour long, and it doesn't just talk about how to build a computer, but it really goes into depth about the whats and the whys. And because I took the time to actually be curious and actually be like, all right, I want to understand why this functions, suddenly everything got just got easier. It was a whole lot easier. It was a whole lot more fun, and I actually really enjoyed the process. So yeah, that's my new love is all the resources out there that if you are willing to be curious, let you be curious. And that is my penultimate one. I think we have one left.
Yeah. So why don't you do your number 10?
Okay.
Because my last number 10 is one I would love to close with.
All right. I will not say hate, but if I could say hate, I would save it for this item. What is the point of sweetened applesauce? Apples are inherently sweet. Like I buy applesauce at the store unsweetened. And I'm like, oh, this is a sweet treat. This is nice and it's delicious. And then you just buy another version with sugar dumped into it. I don't get it. It is way too sugary. It has no inherent value. It is less healthy for you. I'm sure there's somebody who has some use of sweetened applesauce. But like I mentioned this, and somebody, it might have been you or somebody else, Nancy, was like, well, what about like cinnamon applesauce? And I'm like, that's fine because you're changing the flavor profile.
Oh, good, because I just bought a giant jar of cinnamon unsweetened applesauce, and I totally agree with you, Kyle, that when people say to me, you don't look 69, which we've talked about, that I don't like it when people say that because I am 69 and this is how I look.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I've been able to remain relatively youthful looking, I just lost 16 inches across my entire body, not my brain, hopefully. But the way in which I did that was eliminating most processed foods from my diet and going on a sugar cleanse. And you'd be shocked, or maybe not, the number of things that have sugar in them. Peanut butter, which is fine without sugar. Sausages, bacon. Like I challenge you the next time in your grocery store to just pick up anything off the shelf. And they sometimes will hide it or mask it by saying coconut sugar or rice syrup. But at the end of the day, it's still sweetener. And I've eliminated most unnatural sweeteners from my diet. And after a while, I don't even miss them. So I'm right up there with you with the applesauce thing. So make America unsweetened applesauce. Last but not least, what I really don't love is when people throw around the word hate frequently. You know, there are times when it's appropriate, but there are all kinds of other synonyms. Again, we were talking about the value of technology. You can use technology to find hundreds of synonyms for hate that are just softer and milder. Things like, I dislike this. It bothers me. It makes me squirm. It makes me uncomfortable. It's not my jam. So we should save hate for really hateful things, for really hateful behaviors. people who do really hateful things. And there certainly are many of them in the world that are deserving of the H word. But let's just not throw it around, because I really do believe that hate breeds hate and love breeds love. And as Jackie DeShannon sang back in 1969, which I did have to Google, again, the miracles of technology, put a little love in your heart. So thank you, Kyle. If people want to engage you to do their podcasts, which you are so good at, and I love
Thank you.
how you do what you do, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to deckerpods.com. If you don't know how to spell Decker, it's D as in dog, E-C-K-E-R. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just look at the name right under my face. It's that last name plus pods. I was not very creative with it, but I didn't have to be, because it was just to get you to the page. On that page, I have some samples of my work. I have a brief explainer on how to make a podcast to get you started. And then I also offer free 30-minute consultations. These are not pitches. It's literally you come in and you tell me what you want to talk about, and I give you my advice. And then if it aligns with my services, I'll say it. But otherwise, it's just really to get to know you and your story better, because that's what I want to help you tell.
Awesome. Awesome. And my day job is being a brand consultant. I just launched my new brand myself, nancyashenker.com. And that is what I also do for clients. I will help them wrap their heads and their hearts around who they are in the real world, what makes them them, how they're different from other people and other businesses, and then build out all the content that reinforces it and put together the marketing plan that helps the rest of the world know what it is that you do. So that is my day job. That company is called The OnSwitch, TheOnSwitch. But you can find all of my personal stuff about sex, life, and tech across the generations at nancyaf.com. Someone asked me the other day whether the F stood for what they thought it stood for. It stands for whatever you want it to stand for. And you'll see on the website a list of F words that legitimately describe who I am, which goes back to one of the themes that we've talked about today, which is it's very hard not to love somebody or something that is the real deal, that's transparent, that's honest, that's open, that's responsive, that's accountable. I could go on and on and on. But the antithesis of those things are what makes people phony, hustlers, clout chasers. What are some other good words, Kyle, that people who are the antithesis of genuine?
All I can think of is phony, but that makes me sound like I'm a high schooler. They're phonies.
That's a good one. Posers, phonies. But yes, let's end on a positive note. Love, love. Don't love the H word, and put a little love in your heart. Thank you, Jackie DeShannon. Peace out.
Yes.